Howdy, I'm Jace. I have sex addiction and I work with a bunch of other people who do too. A question that came in are sex addiction and love addiction the same thing? So that is what we are going to be talking about in today's video. If you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe, and you can hit that little bell button so that you get alerted when there are new videos coming out. And of course, stick around to the end of the video where we'll have a free resource for you. Otherwise, let's dive right on in. Are sex and love addiction the same thing? Because there are different recovery paths for them. I'm guessing that's why this question came in, is that they are dealt with as if they're two separate things. Now, I'm going to echo some of the other things you've been hearing in these videos recently, where we have been treating addiction as if it's all separate things, right? Love addiction, sex addiction, drug addiction, gambling addiction, food addiction, addictions, right? Multiple to multiple, multiple. Okay, still not what's going on, right? So the addiction is two of the thing, right? Of love addiction, sex addiction. It's really, those are just the catalysts that releases the chemicals, our neurotransmitters, that get played into our survival and reward system. And that's where addiction lies. So there is no love addiction. There is no sex addiction. There is no, any of these addictions. It's never that the one is addicted to sex, someone is addicted to love or romance, or someone is addicted to gambling or something like that. Negatory. Those things, all of the things that play into addiction, play into the reward system and the survival system in different ways. And that's where addiction lies. So in that sense, no, sex addiction and love addiction are not the same thing. Now, the catalysts can be different for different people, right? Where, let's say, going from one monogamous relationship to another, to another, to another, to another, without any control over that. Like, let's say a relationship ends and immediately the person is looking for another one. Doesn't matter who it is, if they even like the person, maybe the person's even abusive, it doesn't matter. I have to be in a relationship, right? And that would be the catalyst. Now, again, it's just the neurotransmitters and the reward and survival systems at play in the brain and body. And that stuff gets wired in, not hardwired in, but it gets wired in for different reasons, right? So, and this all stems from those adverse childhood experiences, the trauma stuff that we talk a lot about on here, and depending on the trauma. And just want to put a reminder out, trauma is how we perceive a situation at the stage and age we are at when it's happening, right? So people might say, well, I don't have a traumatic childhood. Did you feel unsafe as it from that point of view of a child? Okay, well, that can be part of it, right? So say somebody was abandoned, right? This maybe, I'm one of them, right? So let's say someone was abandoned and that created this huge sense of unsafety. Their parent who they relied on is gone all of a sudden, right? Okay, survival system is now kicking into gear because we're unsafe. There is a threat. And we start putting things together, right? I have to be with someone to be safe. And over time, that becomes compulsive. So that person, maybe you're this person, maybe you have a friend that's this person, and you're like, oh, I just can't, not date people. I just have to be in relationships. Or like, oh, why does my friend jump from one to the other? Like, have some time for yourself or whatever. If it's actually at that space of compulsion because it's been wired into the survival and reward systems, it's not really an option. It's not just like, ooh, dating's fun, right? And this can be romance, it can be flirting, it can be adultery, it can be obsession. It runs the gamut, right? That we all just like put into love. Ironically enough, none of those are love, but hey, what are we doing, right? But we put that into that category and we call it a separate thing. It's still the same neurotransmitters, it's still the same systems working in the brain and body, but the catalyst is different, which can mean needing different tools Is that true? Not really. The tools are mostly the same when we're doing holistic recovery, but the entry point might need to be different. The language might need to be a little bit different, and yeah, how one goes about recovery might need to be a little bit different. I think a lot of people have the shame and stigma that comes with sex. And so, and I experienced this in my own recovery path where people would be like, oh no, I have love addiction. I don't have sex addiction. Like, oh, that's terrible. Like you people over there. I have love addiction. Like it's better somehow. And I even was on a show once where they were talking about women have love addiction and men have sex addiction. A doctor was saying this, and I was like, "Oh, which like I'm a pause you right there, bro. Like, what? That's insane." But because of the really outdated, foolish information we have had around the genders and whatnot, there are a lot of people, and sometimes more women than men, who will claim love addiction because it sounds better or feels better to them when it's really they're showing up, similarly the way I was in sex addiction. So no addiction is different. They kind of show up a little bit differently when we're talking about substances because they're not just playing into the reward system, they're actually recreating elements of it. But especially behavior addiction stuff, it's all showing up the same way and all requires a holistic healing approach. So I hope that answers that question. And if you're someone who is experiencing anything with regard to feeling unhealthy in the way you relate to others in a romantic or sexual way, please know you're not the only one. I know it's kind of weird. I know this is like a weird area that we don't talk a lot about in society. I mean, obviously we talk a lot about it here, but in society we're not talking about it a lot. And we've got a lot of stigma and a lot of shame and guilt and all sorts of stuff built into sex in our country and our culture. But please know you're not alone, I swear. And there are so many solutions nowadays for all of this. If you've got a problem, somebody else has already had it and solved it. I promise you that. So please don't give up hope and don't add any more shame or guilt or anything onto it. You can get more info on addiction here on this channel. Of course, we talk about it candidly and openly without shame or judgment. And you can head to jacedowney.com if you're looking for a holistic approach to recovery. That's it for me this week. Until I see you next time, stay curious. Hello again. I am super psyched to get this resource to you for free. I have taken one of my all-time favorite workshops to give in person and condensed it down to a short online little mini course that you can take at your own convenience right now to learn how to go from powerless to empowered, not just with regard to addiction, but your whole life. It is free. It is available now on my website. Just click the link below to get instant access to that at no cost to you. I'll see you over there.